Hello and welcome to my channel. Today we are going to be working on a little project board. This is a nickel metal hydride trickle charger thanks to Big Clive. Find Big Clive on YouTube. And today we will be working on potentially making it fit rechargeable AAAs. He's already done a video about rechargeable AA holders. This right here is the AAA version, and I hope to make it fit this board. And if all else fails, I've discovered that a AAA, this is a AA holder, will sort of fit in there good enough, but I would much prefer to have a proper AAA holder. So, what I'm hoping to do, if this works out, is I'm hoping to do something along the lines of bend this pin at the top, have it fit in the bottom, and bend this pin and put a hook in it and have it fit through the top pin. Because when Big Clive prototyped this board, he originally did it for these AA holders, not AAA holders. So, what I'm going to do, first I'm going to start by soldering all of the periphery components. One way or another I'm going to build this. So I'm going to start with my soldering iron. Today I will be using my TS100. I would use my Weller, but it just so happens to be over on my other bench and not handy. I'm also going to use a good old LiPo battery pack. Okay. Grabbing a couple extra tools, some solder. And let's get this going. Just using plain old everyday 60/40. And I'm going to start, as you do, with the smallest components first. These are the same USB-C connectors that Big Clive used in his video. It took a while looking on eBay to find these. I just had to the search term I used was USB-C female connector, because it's female, you put it in. And I had pin as a keyword, because it has these pins on the back. And I just scrolled through the video, or I scrolled through the listings until I found this one, this style. There were lots of others that were surface mount. You don't want to use those. Using this thing is already just about barely long enough to fit through this PCB. So my TS100 is nicely warmed up. Let's go ahead and get this going. And this is going to be a lot of me soldering and probably not saying much, because Big Clive pretty well covered this in his video. If you want to know more about this particular project, I would suggest go checking out his video and seeing what he has to say. Come on. Let me just stab myself with a soldering iron. Oh, that's why. He went to sleep. That's strange. I wonder why it did that. Okay. Let me just look at that. Not my best soldering in the world, but it is flat and it is on there. Okay. Next, let's do the resistors. So we need 120 ohm. Big Clive conveniently silkscreen 120 ohm onto the board. We will also need a 470. We will need 5 LEDs of whatever type you feel like. It doesn't really matter. We'll just pull out some of these. Gonna have to go pick up some more 120s. You don't have to use these high tolerance blue resistors. They just so happen to be, come on, focus. They just so happen to be what I had. So that's what I'm using. I probably should do the resistors first. I'm sorry, the diodes instead of the resistors first, because I do believe the diodes are slightly smaller. But it doesn't matter. Push comes to shove, I'll just bust out some tape or do the leg bending trick, whatever. Trying to get these all aligned so the colors are all facing the same way. A mark of someone who knows what they're doing is all the resistors are all facing the same way. And can I read these color codes? No. Big Clive mentioned in his video that the blue ones are hard to read. He was telling the absolute truth. They are a pain to read. And if you're not sure, then just bust out a VTVM or your meter of choice. One of those cheapy meters from Hobo Freight will do just fine. I'm sorry, Harbor Freight. I get in a habit of saying Hobo Freight or Horror Freight. Whatever. Those ones that they give you for free when you go in and grace their store with your presence. I am not going to solder that in crooked like that. You can be sure of that. I'm going to straighten those out a little bit. Okay. Ooh. Hello, soldering iron. Yep, you're still there. You just reminded me. So you can come along and you can bend the legs. And that will, oh, that one wants to get away. That will kind of hold them in there a little bit, but you may have to go back in there and touch it up if one of them isn't quite flat. The problem with this, though, is when you go to trim the leads, they will be not sticking straight up, and it's slightly harder to cut them. See, now that I've made every joint, I'm going to touch this one up a little. I don't like this one. So now you can come back and you can see a couple of them are not quite down all the way. So you can come in here, put your finger on it if you get the right one, and just click it down. You hold it down with your finger, you heat up the joint, and you feel and you can hear the click, and it just pops down. So probably some soldering instructor somewhere that's saying no, but that's the way I'm doing it today. Because ultimately this is not going to see much current, nor is it a circuit board going to the moon. So, okay. Now, Big Clive often recommends these style of cutters or something similar to them. And these work just fine. But they're not so great on thicker pins, because what happens is, come on, focus. See how chewed up that is? Yeah, that's what happens when you nibble at, there we go. That right there is what happens when you nibble at thicker pins with these kinds. So, when you have the thicker pins, like the pins, let me focus back down again, on these things, what you want to use are these style cutters, because these are a little tougher. You can still notch the heck out of these, but for little pins like this, when you want to make them neat, yep, just give it a haircut, no problem. And don't ruin your snips like I did. These snips are nice because you can get nice and close to the board. Those other snips you can kind of get sort of close, but it's not as neat if you ask me. Okay, so next I'm going to go ahead and put the diodes. Now, what diodes am I going to use? I'm going to use 1N4007s because that's what I happen to have. Does it matter? No. These are generic diodes. You can get them on evilbay. They usually come in a little assortment like this. I'm using the 1N4007s. When I run out of those, as you can see, I'm just about out. I'm going to go to the 6s, and then the 5s and 4s, and I'll just keep going until I run out, and then I'll buy more. So, here are the diodes. They have a silver band on them on one end. Matches up with the band on the PCB. So I'll just stuff that bad boy in there and then immediately pop it back out again. Get in there. Okay, checking to make sure the bands, that one's got a, yeah, the band's there. Man, that's a cheap one. It doesn't have a very well-defined band, but it's there. I can see it. Okay, so bend the leads again. Okay, since these are diodes, I'm going to try to be a little bit quicker on the solder. Remember to always clean your tip when you got the chance. In this case, this happens to be a repurposed Coke can with some steel wool that I swiped from the kitchen. That's all it takes. I don't like to use the little sponges that come with, whoa, come on, solder properly. I don't like to use the little sponges that come with the soldering irons anymore. I used to use those, but after I ruined a couple of tips because of the extreme shock of the very hot going to suddenly very cold, and then it's got to heat up again. You got to sit on there and wait for your iron to warm up again. I just had enough of that, so I go with the steel wool or the brass wool, and you just when you stick it in there, you drag it across like a nice drag motion through the steel wool, and that will clean the tip. The tip on this is relatively new. Okay, let's see how I did here. Inspect your solder joints, and oh, that one popped up. So just put your finger on it from behind, push down, heat the joint, and flatten down as she goes. This one's popped up a little bit. Click, click, done. And there we go. 4 diodes. And come back, give it a haircut. So, next, I'm going to put this resistor down here. So this is a 470 ohm. I'm using just the blue resistors again. You can grab the legs and you can pull it through. And sometimes it'll work, sometimes it'll give you a weird little whoop-de-doo on the other side. Come on, you. Get in there. Okay. Soldering iron. This is kind of an impromptu video because I saw people on Big Clive's video in the comment section saying, what about AAAs? Will it work with AAAs? Well, I sure hope so. If you do the math, you figure out the current. Yeah, it should work with AAAs. It should be just fine. Okay. Oh, managed to make that a little crooked. Oh well. Okay. So I decided to go with a green LED there and 4 yellow LEDs there. And the thing you need to be aware, you can get LEDs, you can get an assortment like this, right? You can get on evilBay or Amazon or whatever your shopping place of choice is, or in an electronics store. And the trick is with these, at least mine, is inside the box, it gives you an indication of all the colors they give you. This one comes with even white ones, which is really neat. But you'll notice it says forward voltage 2 to 2.2 volts, forward voltage 3 to 3.2 volts. So Big Clive mentioned this in his video. If you use like this, if you use a red one or a yellow one or a green one for these 4 indicator LEDs up here, you will get slightly higher current into the battery, which is okay. Most of my batteries are bigger batteries. Like I have a lot of these Tenergies. These are 2,500 milliamp hour. If you do the math, it's not exceeding, it was either 1/20th or 1/40th C, which is what it's supposed to be charged at, to achieve the effect of safe trickle charging as this board is designed to do. If you use, bringing this back into the picture again, if you use the blue ones or the white ones, the forward voltage is slightly higher, which means the current will be lower. Does that matter? No. If you're charging something with a really low capacity, maybe. Do the math, figure it out. If you've got little like 200 milliamp hour cells, you see this is a 1,000 milliamp hour cell right here. So it should be fine. I have observed, I actually have built one of these before. I purchased quite a lot of these PCBs. And I have discovered that 4 milliamp hour-ish is what you get difference. Putting in the lower forward voltage compared to the higher forward voltage. When I put in white LEDs in one, I got about 24 milliamps on the meter. That's about what Big Clive got. But when I stuck the other one I built, I did red, and those gave me about 29 milliamps. So, caveat emptor. So, what I'm going to do first is I think I'm going to go ahead and stuff these indicator LEDs. You want to have the longer leg. Let me get it in picture. The longer leg is going towards this notched part of the board. All right, long leg towards the notched end of the silk screen indicated on the board. I've never seen this style of silk screen before. Maybe it's a European thing, I don't know. Same thing for the green one. The longer leg goes towards the notch on the silk screen. Come on, get in there. There we go. Also, Big Clive, if you happen to be watching this, thank you very much for making this. And in case you didn't catch it before, Big Clive on YouTube, is the original creator of this board, bigclive.com. Shout out to him for making an awesome little board. Oh boy, I'm going to be touching this one up for sure. I do believe it's time for me to give this a little clean. Remember, stick it in, drag, drag, flip it over, drag. Don't do like what I did when I first started, which was stab, stab, stab. Don't do that. I remember when I was doing that, I went to, give a little 10 on this again. When I was being taught how to solder, the gentleman who was teaching the class saw me doing that, the stab, stab, stab into the steel wool, and he slowly walked around the desk, took the iron out of my hands gently, and he said, "Don't stab my iron into the steel wool, drag it." Yes, sir. Sorry. Okay, how does that look? Yeah, it looks like it's globbed on there and it's not going anywhere. I don't see any bridges. Okay. So, I can come in here and haircut. Okay. So that is mostly a populated board. That just leaves either this holder or this holder. Now, I was thinking something along the lines, I don't have my tool. Where did my tool go? Just one moment. And resume. Okay. So, nastiest pair of needle nose pliers I could find. What I'm hoping to do, I haven't tested this yet, so I don't know if it's going to work, because it doesn't quite line up. I'm thinking like that. Okay. And then like that. So I now have a shape like so. Come on, how do I hold this? Yeah, it's got a little dog leg in the front. So hopefully we'll just be able to drop that in there like so. And I have something to solder to on the other side. Problem with this though is now the holder does not fit flat to the board. There's a gap in there. So what I might do to give this a little extra rigidity when I got to come in here and be pulling these batteries in and out, I don't want to break that pin off. I'm thinking I'm probably going to come in here and I'm going to hot snot a whole bunch of the hot melt in between these holders to give it a little extra rigidity. Maybe I can squeeze a little in underneath it and press it down and put a book on it and let it cool. Yeah, let's go ahead and try that. If it doesn't work, I've got like 8 other boards I could do with the regular connectors. Not that I will do them in this video, but I can do them later. So just a little bend. That dog leg came out a little better. And then 3 and 4. in the right way. Yes, I did. Okay. I'll straighten that out. Okay. Bend it up. Is this a hack? Yes. Will it work? Probably. Okay. Yeah, it just fits right down on in there, doesn't it? Would the board have been better with the proper pin in the proper place? Yeah, it would have. But, as Big Clive said, it is a prototype. A functional prototype that I happen to really freaking like. Okay, set this down on the table. I got all my pins. I'm going to do those top pins first. Okay, my iron's up to temperature. Remember to clean your tip. Always clean your tip. It makes the soldering more fun. Alright. Okay. And there it is. That is my AAA rendition, hopefully in focus, of the Big Clive. I still need to snip these leads. Now, these are the snip killers. These are the ones I like to use. This. Yeah, you hear that? That's the one that kills your snips. I'm also going to unplug the soldering iron because I don't need to waste that anymore. And there we go. Now let's see if it works. Let me try plugging it in down here. There we go. So, .2738. I'm happy with that. That is what it should say. Alright, let's try putting in more batteries. Uh-huh. Yeah. Now, bring the multimeter back in, switch it to current mode. Okay. I don't have room on my desk, or I would show you the multimeter. It's kind of balanced on my knee. I have to say it's easier to pull the AAA out of the holder than it is the AA version. So, I am getting 28.33 milliamps. Now, these 28.36, slowly changing. Now these batteries may already be charged, so I don't know. But all right, get it back out of current because I don't want to pop a fuse. This seems to be functional now. Yeah, that is a little wiggly, so I'm not going to record it, but I am going to put some hot snot in between these to give it a little more rigidity. But other than that, I can easily pull the battery out, put it in, right? Put it out, pull it out again, right? And these seem to work. Now, as for these yellow LEDs, I think I like these better than the reds, because here's the one I made the other day. This one works, but it seems like the reds are brighter. Same green LED. These are some junk cells, and these are really hard to get out. But the AAA, make sure there's nothing sticking to the bottom. Whoa. Hello. I need to touch up my soldering. I messed up. Not editing that out because I done goofed. I didn't solder these wings on the side properly. I'm going to hit the USB, or the, what is it, micro USB. I'm going to hit that again. Iron's already hot again. I'm going to hold it and I need more solder on this one. Hot, hot, hot. Ow, ow, ow. And there you go. That's exactly what I was talking about. The legs are just barely long enough. Okay, yeah. Now it's on there. Okay. So this is my rendition, my slight modification of Big Clive's AA nickel metal hydride. Remember, if you want to find this particular PCB, check out bigclive.com, or even better, look for Big Clive's YouTube video on the subject. It is very well put together and wine powered, so I approve. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.